Hello everyone, thanks so much for joining me. Tonight's presentation is actually a video tutorial. I can't be live with you because I'm at a volleyball game for my granddaughter. So this week's featured product is the Scenic Pumpkin Patch. And I'm going to pair this on our first project with the More Than Autumn bundle. And we will primarily be using the sentiments from the More Than Autumn because, as you can see, the Scenic Pumpkin Patch does not have any sentiments. So we're going to pull in some sentiments from the More Than Autumn. Let's go ahead and get our supplies and get started. Okay, so for this one we have a card base in Mossy Meadow, and this card base is a standard A2 5.5 by 8.5, and I've pre-scored it in the middle at 4 1/4. So let's go ahead and give this a good crease with our bone folder so that it will stay nice and flat. And if you get this extra tiny little flap here, just flip that over and make that your front. That's what I do. We're also going to be using the Designer Series paper from the scrapbooking section of Stampin' Up! And this one's called Sweet Days of Autumn. And you get 4 sheets each of 3 double-sided designs. So this is our first one, and then we have this one, and this is the back side of that one, and then there's this one. So you've got this and this for the patterns. For this particular card, we're going to be using this pattern here. So we'll go ahead and set those aside for the moment. Our card is going to be in the landscape orientation. I've taken a piece of that Sweet Days of Autumn Designer Series paper in the Cajun Craze pattern, and we're going to go ahead and add this to our cardstock. So we're just going to add that on with a bit of seal and center that up. This piece is 4 by 5 1/4. Okay. Excuse me. And now we've got 2 pieces of cardstock. I've got a basic white piece. This piece is what we're going to be stamping and ink blending on, and this is 2 3/4 by 4. And then I've got a base layer in Early Espresso that is 2 7/8 by 4 1/8, and we're going to add that to the layers. We're going to stack these together once we get this piece stamped and ink blended. So let's go ahead and bring in our ink blending brushes. And we're going to start with, actually, we're going to stamp and then we're going to ink blend because I want to ink blend between my stamping. So, from the Scenic Pumpkin Patch, we're going to be using this set of trees, and then we've got some pumpkins that we'll be using. So I have this larger set and this smaller set here, and then we'll have the pumpkin tops, of course. So I've got those here. Let me go ahead and put this out of the way. Grab these in. Okay. We're going to start with some Stampin' Write markers. And I have Early Espresso and Mossy Meadow. And we are going to ink up our tree stamp using the Stampin' Write. And I recommend that you start with the tree stumps. And we're going to put that on. And I'm just using the side of my tip because I don't want to damage the tip. And then we'll add some green here. Okay. Excuse me. I'm going to huff on that. And then I'm just going to put one here. And I'm going to see if my chamois is still wet from last night so I can clean that off a bit. I forgot to wet it this morning. So let's go ahead. We're going to ink that up again. Okay. Oh, got a frog in my throat here. Can't seem to get rid of it. Okay. So we've got that. I'm going to put another one down here. And then finally, one more. Okay. And then we'll just finish this up here. And there we go. All right. So we have that. Now let's go ahead and do our ink blending now because I know where I want to put my pumpkins now. So we're going to bring in a little bit of the Mossy Meadow ink. And I'm going to do that right here on my glass mat. And I'm also going to bring in a little bit of Petal Pink. Okay, so let's start with our Petal Pink. Just going to take a little bit of that, and I'm just going to put a rosy hue in the sky. And then we're going to take our Mossy Meadow, blend that out a bit. And we're going to add that in to our ground. All right. So now we're ready with that. Let's go ahead and clean off our glass mat. And I've just got a wet wipe here for that because I forgot to ink wet my chamois. So let's dry that off real quick. And then we'll go ahead and stamp our pumpkins in. Now, this is more or less a distinctive stamp set, so I need to make sure that my pad here isn't too inky. So I'm going to take a spoon and I'm just going to press my ink in with the side of my spoon onto my ink pad, and that will give me the best possible inking with the most detail. And then I'll just wipe that on my wipe here. All right, so now our pumpkins are ready to go. Let's start with our smaller pumpkins. And we're just going to ink those up. And we'll put some, to make sure they're right side up. Some over here. I'm going to put some more in here. like so. Oh, that I did not ink very well. Let's see if I can fix that. There we go. And then we're going to take our bigger pumpkins and we're going to add those right down here at the bottom. Okay, so we've got that. And we can set all of those aside. But let's go ahead. I'm going to clean these real quick because we will need them for our second project, and I might as well have them ready to go. All right, so now let's bring in the Mossy Meadow. And we've got a set of 5 small pumpkin tops. So I'm just going to set this right down here. Okay. And then we'll add them to this small set of pumpkins. And then we'll grab the larger set and we'll add those to our pumpkins. Okay, so now we have our scenery all ready to go. And we're going to bring in a scrap piece of white to do a little stamping of our sentiments. Okay. So from the More Than Autumn bundle, we're using Is the Best and then Fall. So I gotta get this. I ran out of ink blocks. I used so many here. I'm gonna have to switch this so that I can use it effectively. There we go. Get that little bit of green off. Okay, so we've got our Fall and we've got It's the Best. So with the Early Espresso ink pad, we're going to take Is the Best. I'm going to stamp this right down here in the bottom corner. Just like so. And then we'll take Fall and stamp it down here. Okay. So that is the bulk of our stamping. Now let's go ahead and clean this off so I don't have an ink catastrophe. Oh, and I've got a stray stamp there that's going to get lost if I don't contain that. Okay, and finally, I have taken a piece of Cajun Craze cardstock, and I took the die Season from the More Than Autumn set, and I actually have that right here. So I've taken the die from the More Than Autumn Season. I put some adhesive backing, which comes in a package like this, adhesive sheets. And I just put it on the back of the cardstock. And then I ran my die through 3 times to get the word season. Okay. And we're going to take those. I've already taken 2 of them. And I layered one on top the other. And I'm going to take this last one here. I'm going to remove the backing. Okay, and of course it's going to be stubborn. Let me just get my little take your pick tool in right there on the S. And then I'll just peel that backing off. And because I put those adhesive sheets on, now I have a sticker. Okay. So I'm going to lay these atop each other. And with the adhesive sheets, you have time. And if you don't get it perfect, you can lift it up and reposition it until you give it a really good press. So all I've done is stack those so that I have a little bit of stacked, thicker sentiment here. And I still have adhesive backing on the final one, so I can put it down with the adhesive backing. So I'm just going to press that together, and we're going to start putting our card together here. Let me go ahead and cut out our sentiments. We're going to hand cut these. Just going to take the Is the Best and hand cut that. And then I'm going to cut off Is from the Best. Just going to give that a snip. Okay. Set those aside where I don't lose them. And then I'm going to hand cut my fall. So I'm just going to wiggle this around. If you find this hard to do freehand, take a pencil and go around your word and then follow your pencil line just inside. And then if you have anything left of the pencil line, go ahead and erase it. This is so small, I'm just going to do that. And now we have that ready. Okay, let's go ahead and put this card together. So let's bring back in our card base and our layer here. And now we have our layer here. We're going to put this on and hope that I don't run out of adhesive. I'm right at the end. I have a refill ready to go because I know I'm very close. We're going to go ahead and put this on here. Center that up as best we can. Okay. And then we'll add this to our card base. And there is the end of my adhesive. So we're going to take and open that up. I'm going to remove any excess gunk at the opening. It's important to get all of these little, I call them glue boogers. It's important to get all of those off so that it doesn't mess up your next roll. And you can take an alcohol wipe if yours is especially sticky. I'm going to go ahead and set this aside for just a minute while I get this down. Okay, let's make sure our card is opening correctly. I'm going to center this up right here. All right. And I'm going to reach over and grab my new refill. And it's got 3 holes here that will line up with the pegs here. And I'm just going to line those up and set it in. Pop on the top. And now I'm back in business. Okay. So we're going to take our The Best Is. We're going to put it up here. Or The Best. And then we're going to add Season up here. But before we add Season, we're going to take our Wink of Stella clear glitter brush. And I'm going to grab a scrap paper here. And I'm going to give that a good shake. And then I'm going to glitter this up just a little bit. Just to give it a little sparkle. Okay. So there we are, we've got that. And that's alcohol based, so it dries really quickly. We're going to put Season up here. And then we're going to put our Is and Fall on. So let's go ahead and we'll start with our smaller pieces here. And I'm just going to put just the tiniest bit of glue And put that up here at an angle. And then I'm going to take my is and we'll put it down here. Like so. And then we'll take fall. And I'm going to take from the mini dimensionals. I'm going to cut just a small piece from the edge. I want just a thin piece because fall's not very big, and I want it to go toward the bottom of the sentiment. So this is the best way for me to do that. So I want to pop this up, and I might have this a little bit too long. Yep, so let's go ahead and trim that off. Cut it a little bit on the long side. And then we're going to put this at the bottom down here, because we're going to set this to where it kind of sits on top of our other piece here. And it's not quite, I'm actually going to add a glue dot to that top section there, so that'll stick just a little bit. The glue dot will give it just a little bit of extra dimension since it's going onto that cardstock, that double layer of cardstock. So we're going to do that. Put this down here. All right, there we go. Now we need to add our season here, and we're going to take the backing off of that again. I'm going to use my Take Your Pick tool. That helps me separate it much easier. And because this is a 3-stack now, it's not quite as flimsy as a single stack. So I'm just going to put this right across here, and I've cut this in the Cajun Craze. So we've got the best season is fall. And then we're going to add some earth tone shimmer gems. Okay, these came out in the mini catalog. And again, I'm going to take my Take Your Pick tool, and I'm going to take some of the crumb cake. These come in Copper Clay, Very Vanilla, Crumb Cake, and Garden Green. Oh, I'm going to tip that over. Try and turn that so I can get a hold of it. There we go. Okay, so we'll put one up here. And another one over here. And then that's a small one. So I've got a large, a small, and then I'm going to take another small and put right down here by the word fall. Okay, so that is the front of our card. For the inside of our card, I took those pumpkins and the trees, and I just stamped those in the lower corner in landscape mode. And then I'm just going to add this to the inside of my card. And this card is finished. And here is the coordinating envelope. Okay, so that's our first project for tonight. I hope you like that. Let's go ahead and get started on project number 2. Okay, set that aside. And I'll bring in the supplies for number 2. Okay, so for this one, we will be using our 2 3/8 inch circle punch. in addition to the words from More Than Autumn, I have also brought in the deckled circles, and we'll be using the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, number 6 from the smallest deckled circle here. And I believe I've already cut that for us to save some time. So let's set our circle aside. For this card, our card base is Cajun Craze, and this will be in the portrait mode. And again, it's an A2 size card, 5.5 by 8.5, scored in the center at 4 1/4. We'll give that a press. We have a piece of the Sweet Days of Autumn, 12 by 12, and this is the front and back, and we're just going to add this. We don't need to put any treatments on this piece, so we're just going to go ahead and add it. To our card base here. Center that up. Okay, so we have that. Now, let's go ahead and do our stamping. We have a piece of basic white here, and this is just a scrap piece. So for this one, we are going to stamp out a little scene here, and I wanted to show with this one how you can use this Scenic Pumpkin stamp set and not do pumpkins at all. So we're going to be using, from this stamp set, we're going to be using these two little pieces here, this little fence line, the trees again, and then this little section of trees. Okay, so let's go ahead and get that going. We're going to start with our house or our barn, whatever it is. And for that, I'm going to bring in some cherry cobbler along with the early espresso. I'm going to start with the early espresso, and I'm going to stamp the roof. Okay. And then I'm going to take some cherry cobbler ink. And I'm going to use a sponge dauber so that this does over over ink. This is another way to take your distinctive stamps and ensure that you get a good impression. So we're just going to line this up as best we can. And I'm not quite at the right angle for this, so we're going to hope it works. There we go. All right, so we have that. Now let's bring back in that espresso ink. And we're going to take that fence line. And I need to steal a little block here. So here's my little fence. And I'm just going to stamp this about 3 times. Okay. And then I'm going to take my trees. If I can figure out where I set them down at. Right here. Whew. And this time we're going to ink our trees a little differently. I'm going to still use the Stampin' Write markers, but I don't want the whole tree top here. So I'm going to take my Stampin' Write marker and I'm going to ink up just the bottom of my trees. Just this tiny little section here. I'm not going into those tree branches. I just want the bottoms. And then I'm going to take Old Olive and fill in my ground. Okay. Let me get that a huff. And then I'm just going to stamp that right next to my fence line there. Okay. Now those trees look a little funky, but we're going to fix that. So let's bring in some crushed curry, and we want some Cajun craze and a little bit of cherry cobbler ink. Okay, we're going to start with our crushed curry, and we're going to take that little section of the tree here, right here, and I'm going to take a sponge dauber again. And I'm going to ink that up with the crushed curry. And I'm just tapping it up and down. Okay. And then I'm going to bring that to the trunk of that first tree there. Let that paper have contact. I'm done with the crushed curry, so I can set that aside. And I'm going to give that a quick clean. And then I'm going to take my Cajun craze, and again, a sponge dauber, and ink that up, just tapping up and down. And I'm going to put it on the other outside tree branch. So I've done the right and left. And then I'm going to take and ink this up again with the Cajun craze. And then we're going to take a little bit of cherry cobbler, and I'm going to put it on the right side of that. And then we're going to stick this one right in the middle. Okay. So there is our little scene. Now, we need to punch this out with that 2 3/8 inch circle punch. So we're going to take and insert this into our punch here. And I'm just going to try and center that up a bit. Okay. Now I want to get this nice and straight. And I'm going to take the sentiment from More Than Autumn, Grateful, It's Finally. But I only want grateful. So I'm going to take a piece of tape here. And I'm going to ink off the It's Finally. Just to make sure I don't get that. Okay. And Early Espresso ink. And hang on just a minute before we do that. I'm going to go ahead and do my ink blending before I put that on there. So we're going to bring in the Mossy Meadow ink again. I put just a little bit of that on. And then I'm going to pull in some Azure Afternoon. Okay, so let's start with the Mossy Meadow. put just a little bit down here on the bottom. Okay, and then I'm going to pull in the Azure Afternoon, and I'm going to carefully go around and ink up my sky. Okay, so there we have that, and I'm happy with that. So we're going to go ahead and give this a wipe off. Get all of that ink off of our work surface. I love this glass mat for this. So easy and convenient. Now we're going to take this piece here, get that as straight as we can. We're going to take that Grateful and the Early Espresso ink, and we're going to ink up the word Grateful. And that's all I want. And by masking that now, I ensure that I don't have to worry about the rest of that. So I just got the word Grateful. I'm going to bring this down here, and I'm going to try and put this right in the center as straight as I can. And there we are. Okay, so that piece is now finished and ready to add to our card. So let's get out the rest of our pieces. Like I said, we've got that 6th from the smallest Mossy Meadow piece, and we're going to put our 2 3/8 inch circle on that. And then I've got a piece of Early Espresso, and this is 1 1/4 inches by 3 7/8. And I'm going to take this, and I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to find the center of this using my mat here. So I've got 1, 2, 3, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 lines. Go in here and go in the center of that one. I'm going to mark it right there. About that far up, just about 1/4 inch or so, or 1/8 inch, I mean. And then I'm going to give that a little trim right there where I marked it. And then I'm going to go from the left side to that center cut, and from the right side also to that center cut. That'll give me just a little bit of a flag on the end. Okay, and then I'm going to repeat that again. I'm going to mark my center. And try and cut that up about the same distance. And flag this side. And this side. Okay, and those look pretty decent, so we're good with that. And let's go ahead and add some twine to this piece. So I've got the Baker's Twine Essentials pack, and I'm going to use the Crumb Cake twine from this pack. And I'm going to give myself enough on this end to be able to tie a bow on the left side. And then I'm going to wrap this a couple of times around my piece here. And I'm going to bring this clear over to the left side as far as I can. I've probably given myself way too much on the end to make that bow, but I want that right at the edge here. Okay, and I'm going to grab my reverse tweezers from my Embossing Additions kit to hold on to that knot and keep that nice and tight. while I tie. And then I can pull that off and finagle my ends here until I get them where I want them. And I'm still attached to my roll here because I want this to stay on the roll and not waste as much as I can. Let's get this down just a little bit smaller, and that side is not wanting to cooperate, but here we go. Let's give that a snip. Give this a snip, and there is our bow treatment. We'll finagle with that just a little bit more. And then I can add this piece to my card base. But first, let's add our scene to our circle here. What did I do with my second hand? Right here, I put them back, my tweezers. This helps me see without my hands being in the way. All right. Now with this, we're going to add this to our card with dimensionals, but I'm going to put my dimensionals only at the top and the bottom because I want to straddle my early espresso ribbon piece. So I'm just going to do that. Let's go ahead and add this on with some liquid glue. Center that up. Give that a good press and let that liquid adhesive set on there so it doesn't lift up. Just takes a second. Okay. Then we'll remove the backings from our circle focal image here and add this to our card like so. And then we're going to add, for our final stage here, we're going to add the 2023 to 2025 in color opaque sparkle dots. I really like how the copper clay in this set coordinates so beautifully with the Cajun craze. So we're just going to put a couple up there, one down here. Give that a press. And that is the outside of our card. I hope you like that. So for the inside, what I did was I took that same image from the outside and I brought it in. And this for you is from the Rustic Crate stamp set, which is right here. This is last year's and it carried over, and I love this little for you. You will be seeing on Thursday during the YouTube live this stamp set or this die set come out in conjunction with this Scenic Pumpkin. So let's go ahead and give this a flip over. A little bit of seal. And if you're wondering why I only put a little bit at the top, I do that so that the recipient, should they get this and then want to change out this inside piece so that they can send it forward to someone else, can easily remove this piece of cardstock and add their own. Okay, so there we have that. I've put the little barn and fence on my envelope, dressed it up with the coordinating paper, 2 1/4 by 6 inch. I put that down with some liquid glue, and then I trimmed around the edge so that we have a coordinating envelope. And those are our projects for today using the Scenic Pumpkin. I hope you like those. Some kind of simple cards using some simple stamping. And there you have it, Scenic Pumpkin. See you Thursday night on the live in YouTube, or I'll see you back here next Tuesday night at 7, and hopefully I'll be live then. Thank you so much. Good night.